Do you like to laugh?
Of course they do. Who doesn't like to laugh, Dylan?
Well, this episode is about things that are funny.
Even though this intro is really not funny, you didn't really spend much time on this, did you?
No, sorry. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 22 of Channeling Hallmark, the podcast where we talk about all the things that make us feel warm and fuzzy, like when you make someone that you love laugh. A feeling that I have never experienced. We're your hosts, Dylan Cashbaugh.
And Keetin Markey. And today we're talking to comedian Gary Cannon and reviewing a movie that was written and directed by a comedian, stars comedians, and is about a stand-up comedian.
Wow, that's a lot of comedy.
You'd think.
You would think. But before we do that, Keetin, are we drinking some tea today? I want to hear about it.
We are drinking some tea. Okay, so uncaffeinated, obviously. It's past.
Obviously.
We're recording this past 3 p.m. and we're elder millennials. So this is a hibiscus sunflower tea blueberry flavor, caffeine free, heart healthy Nigerian blossom.
Is this another Republic of Tea?
Of course, it's another Republic of
Wow.
Tea. We're a little biased, but here we go. Let's do it. Oh my God!
Oh wow!
Wow, that's a fresh.
Ooh.
It's like blueberry boba balls popped in my mouth like that.
Is it just me, or does it almost taste like a little bubble gummy? Am I crazy there?
No, you're not. There's
Yeah.
a weird bubblegum aftertaste on that one. Well, I'm trying to see what exactly is in this. Let's see. In the blend is Nigerian hibiscus, rose hips, apple, stevia, and blueberry bits.
Okay. I mean, it's not bad. I don't know why. I've never been a big fan of the bubblegum flavor. So this tea is not for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is not
This is
not
gonna
starting
be
off.
this is how this episode's gonna go. We're starting out with a tea that I'm just not really personally feeling.
It tastes too much like fake blueberry to me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It tastes like blueberry flavored bubblegum.
Hmm.
So, it's not my fave.
No.
But, it's healthy for us and there's no caffeine in it. So I'm going to have another little sippy sip. Oh, it's a little hot still.
Now that you've had a little sip of tea, do you want to share some hot cocoa with us?
I do. So over the last year now, I have read all of Sarah J. Maas's books. I've read Rebecca Yaros's Fourth Wing series. And that was a lot of books. And then I was like, so what do I do after all of this? I set out with that goal to read all those books. And finally somebody came to me and they're like, you need to read The Trial of the Sun Queen. It's a quest. There's smut. There's enemies to lovers. It's all the things that are in all the other books that I've enjoyed.
So does it still count as fairy smut?
Oh, it's absolutely fairy smut.
Good,
absolutely fairy smut. It was only 4 books, but it's written by Nisha J. Tooley. And the 4 books, the series is called The Artifacts of Aranos. The first one is called The Trial of the Sun Queen. Second one is called The Rule of the Aurora King. Then the next is The Fate of the Sun King. And then the final one, which I just finished, it was so bittersweet last night, Tale of the Heart Queen. And I really loved these books. They're quicker reads. They're faster paced. There's only 4 of them. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the lead female character. And usually it takes me a while to actually like them. But Lore, who's our lead character, I really did like. And it was just fun. They're really fun books. I can't recommend them more. I have no idea what series I'm going to read next. Oh, no, actually I do.
Yeah, you
Because
do.
I promised my husband, I have never read The Hobbit. He's been asking me to read The Hobbit for a while. So while I take everybody's suggestions for what the next fairy smut series I should read, I'm going to read The Hobbit. And I assume there is no smut in that. I don't know, Dylan.
I'm pretty confident that I do not remember any smut in The Hobbit.
Well,
but you'll also be done with it probably by the time we have our next episode.
I
so.
know. I'm gonna read it fast. But I'm very excited about that. I always read my books in correlation with a book on tape. So Andy Serkis does the audiobook for that. So I'm excited to listen and to read.
Good.
What's your hot cocoa?
So my hot cocoa is something that I think you're going to relate to because you've been right along this journey with me.
Yes.
And that is, we have a new ice cream spot that opened up near us.
Oh, man.
Handel's ice cream. I think it's Handel's.
Handel's so
Handel's.
hot right now. Handel's,
But
no handles. Yes.
I love having just that kind of summery ice cream shop that you can go to. It actually, I haven't even talked to you about this, but it really reminds me when I was a kid, we would go to Frankfort, Michigan every summer, and there was a ice cream shop there that is now a national chain, basically, but called Kilwins. And I have a lot of very fond memories of summer nights going to Kilwins, getting cake batter ice cream in a waffle cone.
Classic Dylan.
And just chowing down. My brother and I basically would see who could eat it fastest. And
why would you not savor it?
That's one way of enjoying, is just devouring as quickly as possible.
Brain freeze, come on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was kind of a struggle of like eat faster, but not so fast that you get a brain freeze. But anyways, I am so excited that this ice cream shop has opened because it really does give me a lot of that nostalgia. But it's also probably dangerous to have a really good ice cream place really close.
It is.
And
it's one of those great classic ice cream places that there's no inside. So if you have to go up to the window and order it and wait outside for your order to be ready. And so the line like kind of snakes around. So it feels very old fashioned. It's so good. They do deliver. We are in the delivery range.
No, we can't do that. We cannot
We did
do
it.
that.
We did it earlier this week. And my mom was so shocked that ice cream places delivered. She was just like, what? And I was like, Mom, anything is possible in Los Angeles, especially ice cream delivery from less than 10 minutes away. But that was just us being lazy as well.
Well,
what's your favorite ice cream there?
Oh, it's way too early to tell.
Oh,
this is a new ice cream shop. I'm gonna need to try like all of the, I don't know, 40 some flavors they probably have, and then we'll see. They have so many. It's gonna be great.
I'm so glad that brings you joy.
Yeah. Now that we've talked about joyful things, are you ready to talk about this week's movie, Keetin?
Oh, God, you guys, sometimes you swing and you miss. And we were trying to find a movie that could pair with our guest, who is a stand-up comic in Los Angeles and had all these great stories about all the different venues and stuff. So we're like, oh, this movie is that. Let's watch this one. And the trailer deceived us.
The trailer led us astray.
It did lead us astray. It told us it was a different movie than what it was. But let's dive into it, shall we?
What's this movie about?
Well, funny people. When a famous comedian learns he has a terminal disease, he latches onto a young, inexperienced comedian and forms a friendship. They then do some things for another 2 hours, and some of it was funny. I chuckled a lot, but all those parts were kind of spoiled in the trailer.
Yeah, that's true. This Judd Apatow written and directed movie is a movie. And we learned that maybe there was a reason why it didn't do super well despite the cast. But here we are. So, Keetin, what is something about this movie that you liked?
I felt like a little bit of a time capsule to me. Just seeing a lot of these, we're really into the studio right now, which Seth Rogen is a star in and created. And so to go back and watch him kind of do this drama comedy role in this film, and that's kind of what he does in the studio. It was interesting to see where it kind of started. But yeah, I would say, just kind of maybe seeing this young, this cast earlier in their career. This movie came out in what year?
2009.
2009. So it's over, obviously, it's almost 15 years old.
Yeah, over 15, 16 now.
So this movie was a time capsule to me. It was seeing a lot of actors who I've loved for years, kind of back in 2009, where I feel like they're doing something a little bit different. They're trying to be somewhat in a dark comedy, a little more drama with this film. A lot of them have worked with Judd Apatow before. His wife Leslie Mann is in this. Judd Apatow's kids are in it. Obviously Seth Rogen, Knocked Up. So a lot of these people are familiar. Aubrey Plaza was in this, and so we had never seen it. So we were just like, "Oh, look who that is! Look who that is!" And there were a lot of incredible comedians that also had little cameos. So that was my favorite part about it. But that was
it was also set in Los Angeles.
It was.
So it was kind of fun for us as Los Angeles locals to be like, "Oh, that's that spot, and that's that spot." There were a couple spots, like Runyon Canyon, I guess. There was not. I mean, I guess I can say I sort of appreciate the scenes of male bonding and men talking with other men about their emotions.
Yes.
And their health and things that they were struggling with.
And
so
not
I'm
just
happy that
penises.
it showed that. There were some scenes where they were not talking about penises. There were not many scenes where they were not talking about penises, though. It was like, I know last week we had Eurovision, and you referenced that Eurovision had a lot of dick jokes. This
was like
more.
hold my beer Eurovision. Yeah. So you liked the male bonding.
Yes, I would say that was the one thing that I liked about it was just such a meandering movie. Like, this was 2.5 hours long.
Oh my God, it was 2.5 hours
and
long.
And it felt like it didn't have enough story to last 90 minutes.
No. It was like Judd Apatow was like, I'm going to be artsy.
Yeah.
But then have constant dick jokes.
Like, at least when we watch a Hallmark movie that isn't good.
Yeah.
Mismatched.
Yes.
That was the name of that movie.
Yeah,
right?
Was that good job? Good memory.
Mismatched, for example. There are things about it that are kind of like campy and fun. I really got like nothing out of this movie.
I completely agree with you. And I will say this, we scoured the internet with movies that were about comedians and stand-up comics, especially in Los Angeles, because that's what we wanted to focus on. And all of them had very low ratings. But we were like, you know what? We're not scared of a low rating, because a lot of Hallmark movies have low ratings, but they still bring us joy.
Well, also we found that a lot of movies about stand-up comedians are not actually comedies.
No, they're
very dark movies. And I think I guess one thing that is interesting about that, as well as is kind of a portrayal in this, is the fact that it does seem like oftentimes stand-up comics are struggling, with mental health, their emotions and things. And I think, oddly enough, our movies really reflect that, because there aren't a lot of warm and fuzzy movies about stand-up comics, it seems.
No, it almost feels like the kind of cliche of a like rock and roll or music biopic. That there's always like some type of like addiction that like causes this climax of like, oh, bad thing, like the worst of it's going to happen. Will they come back? Will they not? Will it kill them or will it not? This is just, I don't know. It was depressing. I will say another thing that I did enjoy, which is including the cast, is Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler to me is warm and fuzzy nostalgia.
Oh, wow.
I know that's like weird for you, but like Billy Madison is probably one of my favorite movies.
Okay.
It is so funny. I have such nostalgia for him. I remember I wasn't supposed to watch it when my brother and my cousins first started watching it, and I thought it was so funny. But to me, watching this, Adam Sandler's doing the same things in that he's been doing for his entire career.
Have you watched Billy Madison in the last 15 years?
I haven't.
Okay.
Oh no. Does it not age well, just like this movie did not age well? There were some jokes in this movie that we were like...
Well, there were jokes in this movie that I don't want to even get into, because it's just like very, very unfortunate.
Yes.
But I guess that happens when you just try and pack as many random jokes into a movie as you possibly can, because you don't have a story.
Yeah. You know what? I think this could have been, if this was a tight 90, I think it could have been maybe a lovely bromance story about the Seth Rogen and the Adam Sandler of it all. But they drew things out for so long. There were so many unnecessary scenes, and he needed an editor to be like, cut half of this out, and then you have a decent comedy.
I guess I just didn't really feel like there was a lot of character growth, story arc. Like, I think it's okay for me to spoil this movie.
You can
spoil
it.
I don't think
it's
we
been out
recommend
for 15 years now.
Anyone watch it, really. But he gets sick and then he gets better. They become friends. They have a brief fight, and then they're just friends again. But I don't really feel like they learned anything. Like, it just doesn't feel like there is really anything satisfying to me about this journey.
This is a Channeling Hallmark first, you guys. And we hate to be negative about anything. We always try to find the positive, even if it's like not our favorite film. But this one was tough. And we almost pivoted to a dog movie.
Well, Keetin threw out the alternative of Homeward Bound.
I don't know.
Which,
Gary loves dogs.
Is in some ways a lovely dog movie, but it makes me cry. and not in a way that I feel like crying
tonight.
right now. Not
Okay,
tonight.
that's fair.
Those are not the tears I want to shed.
Okay, no, and that is fair. We'll have to revisit that one at some point because I think that's one of the most nostalgic films of my childhood besides Land Before Time. But yeah, you want it to be good because it's full of good people, but it's just not that good. And Judd Apatow has done better.
Just remember, we have watched this movie so that you don't have to.
Yeah.
So Keetin,
Yeah.
how many marshmallows would you give funny people?
I'm going to give funny people 2 marshmallows. 2 marshmallows for funny people.
Why 2?
They were... Nope, it's going to get 1 marshmallow. It's going to get 1 marshmallow.
I'm not trying to convince you.
It's going to get 1 marshmallow. It's going to get 1 marshmallow. And that's how I feel. What about you, Dylan? How many marshmallows is it going to get?
God, I feel kind of bad. Yeah, I mean 1 marshmallow.
Wow.
Like I'm trying to think of what warm and fuzziness I got from this movie, and there was none.
The number of times we paused it and we're like, how much more is left? How much more is left?
Right?
It was so long.
And every time it felt like it got longer.
It did. It was like, oh my gosh, there's still an hour left. Oh my gosh, there's still 30 minutes left.
Yeah, not a warm and fuzzy movie.
No.
Not a movie that I think is worth spending 2.5 hours watching.
Maybe if you're curious on a plane.
Yeah.
If you're curious on a plane, but just know you're gonna get bored.
Yep. Well, I personally am tired of talking about funny people.
I don't want to talk about funny people. I want to talk to a funny person, though.
I love that idea. What are we going to do next, Keetin?
So when we come back, we're going to be talking to the amazing comedian and warm-up guy for the Jennifer Hudson show and many other shows out there, Gary Cannon. And he's also a huge dog lover. Stay tuned.
This week, we are joined by Gary Cannon, a comedian in Los Angeles who has worked in comedy for over 20 years. You actually, though, have a unique approach as an audience warm-up comic where you work with live audiences, connecting with people in a way that gets them to relax and feel like they can really let loose. So, Gary, when you walk into a room with an audience, what is going on in your head?
Oh, wow. We're jumping right in.
Oh yeah.
Whoa. Well, I guess it depends. It's different for everything that you do. It's different if you are doing warm-up for a TV show. It's different if you're doing stand-up. It's different if you're doing a corporate event. Last night, I was hired to do an auction, a benefit auction for a theater here in LA. So I had to go to somebody's house and try to sell 5 live items in front of 80 people trying to party at some beautiful home in West Hollywood. So that was a disaster. Like it depends like what it is. I think you put on a different hat for everything that you do. If it's a warm-up gig for, say, Jennifer Hudson, it's more upbeat, it's more fun, it's more engaging. If you're doing warm-up for a late night show, like for the Conan O'Brien show, that can be a little dirtier. You can get a little over the line and nobody cares. It really just depends. I mean, that's why I love doing so many different types of audience interaction, because it really keeps you sharp. And it's weird. I remember this. I always wondered why Jay Leno, even at like 75 or however old he is now, why he still does stand up like 6 nights a week, or why he flies to Arkansas for one night. And it finally hit me. So it's like, there's a guy that has so much money, he doesn't need to do stand up anymore. But I think the more you keep doing it, the more sharp you are, the more mental your mind just like it really, it puts you in a zone that you just feel younger. You feel like you're doing something. There's so many nights where, I realize I have a show and then I'm upset about it. And then I go and I really have a good time because it gets me out. It's a social network. I get to meet people. So it's really, I see now why Jay does that. It's a unique thing that just really keeps you moving.
Do you have a favorite? I mean, you've obviously you can do a lot of different types of rooms, it seems like, but do you have kind of a favorite venue or a favorite style of comedy to lean into? Like when you get a gig like that, you're like, oh, I'm absolutely going to do it. No questions asked.
I think for me, looking, of all the shows I've ever done warm up on, every single one of them, whether it was a sitcom, whether it was a daytime talk show, game show, for me, I think Conan was probably one of my favorite gigs because I watched Conan when I was in college, when he premiered at 12:30 on NBC. Now working for him and being able to do a lot of my stand-up and be a little dirty and make fun of the audience and kind of dump on them a little bit and be able to do stand-up and warm-up, get paid for it, work 15 minutes and leave was unbelievable. Where the show, Jennifer Hudson, you stay for the whole show and you fill the breaks and all that stuff. At Conan, you did 15 minutes, brought out the band, the show would start, and you were gone. It was just this incredible gig where you're like, wow, I can't believe that I'm getting paid for this. It's insane.
That's wild. Did you ever do you practice kind of your material sometimes when you're in those environments, or no? You kind of
No,
just do
it's
your
a
own
lot of the
thing?
same thing because you definitely got to hit the same beats over and over again. You got to tell them this, that. It's a lot of it's a lot of housekeeping. It's a lot of babysitting. It's a lot of hand holding. I mean, listen, it's, even with a lot of these shows, with daytime talk shows, or whether it's like The Masked Singer or these other shows, there's so much weird stuff that's going on where you hear like in the earpiece, somebody is falling asleep in the back row. There's somebody that just flipped off the camera. There's somebody that is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. So in addition to making sure that the audience is up and enthusiastic, you're also playing babysitter. You're just like, you're having to go up and scold people. And, there were so many shows that I would do that they couldn't get an audience in for whatever reason. The show wasn't popular. It was in the middle of the day, for whatever reason. So they would bring groups of people in from different colleges, different church groups, different whatever. And there was nothing worse than having this group, young kids that would be defiant because they didn't want to be there, but they were raising money for their school because they were a paid audience. And you would have to go to them and tell them to act appropriately.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, now you're the bad teacher. Now they're snarking behind your back. And so you're like, this isn't what I signed up for, but you're really running. I think the problem is when comics come to see me do warm up, they're like, oh, this is great. Like, look how easy this is. And you're just out there, but they're coming on a day when, a big guest star is on the show and the audience is great. And the show is running to time. I mean, they're not there when, we're running 45 minutes late because a guest isn't there, or the show isn't as good as some of the other days. Those are the days that they want to do because they see how great it is. I mean, look at, I always think of the guy that does Jimmy Fallon. Like, what a great gig that must be, because it's all rabid fans, right? They've waited months for tickets. They want to see Jimmy. They want to see the guests. I mean, even Ellen. I mean, that people went to see Ellen for the giveaways, for the guests. Like, that was just a great gig. But some of these newer shows, it can be pretty brutal just based on looking out into the audience. And you're like, is this a Greyhound bus station? It's insane. Like, you're just like, there's 8 teeth among these people. It's just, it's interesting to see the dynamic based on the show.
Do you then use the same kind of strategy then? Because I don't think, Gary, Ed, with the wide range of audiences we have had come through the Jennifer Hudson show since the beginning of season 1, you always get them up, you always get them moving, you get them smiling, you get them happy. Do you have a strategy for even on those tough days, or when you walk in and you're like, oh, I feel the energy in this room is just not great?
Yep.
How do you approach that so that then you can turn it around?
Well, it's interesting because there are days, and I'll text Ken in the booth, like during the warm up or once they're up dancing, I'll say, they're not that good today. Just know. And I can tell very quickly because the few of the jokes that I normally do don't land. And you can tell when the audience, sometimes you think they're going to be great, they're bad. And sometimes they seem bad and they're good. But I think what happens is on those days where they're not good, I'm literally over them a lot more than I would be if they were great. When they're great, you can kind of let them go. You can kind of not say as much on microphone, let them have fun during the breaks, do their own thing. But when they're bad, you're literally all over them. And I think it's kind of a reverse strategy where you almost tell the audience how good they are. So they believe it and they think, oh, this is, and you just try to do whatever it takes to get more energy from this stone. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot at Jennifer because they are there to see her, but some days you just get a group. Maybe it was raining outside. Maybe it's a Wednesday in February for whatever reason. I mean, it's not, there are days right out of the chute. You're like, this is going to be unbelievable. But there are other times where you're like, this is going to be a long 90 minutes. You can tell immediately. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, as someone who is naturally a fairly introverted person, your job terrifies me. I cannot imagine doing what you do. Like, I mean, not only the amount of people, but also, let me know if I'm wrong here, but I feel like a lot of the people, as someone, I have been in an audience, you don't necessarily immediately think, oh, I'm actually there for a purpose. I'm not just there to enjoy the show. I am technically like a performer in some ways. So you're basically having to direct people without them realizing that you are directing them. I can't really imagine like what that challenge must be. And I'm just curious, like, how do you try to connect with those people?
Well, it's interesting because a couple of things, at least with a show like Jennifer or some of these other shows, these talk shows, you know that in about 90 minutes, it's done, right? Like it's over. Let's hope the second audience is better. Let's hope whatever reason we had that they weren't great, it gets better for the second show. When you're doing a sitcom and they're retaping and rewriting and doing another scene for a show that might take 5-6 hours, and you know immediately they are not good. I remember I worked on a show called Man with a Plan with Matt LeBlanc.
Oh, yeah.
And I was there. I was supposed to do like 6 or 7 episodes. And the first episode I did wasn't great. They brought me back. Second episode was better. The third, I was kind of on the fence. Like, if this doesn't go well, this is my last day. I'm going to lose a bunch of work. And I just remember 10 minutes into the show, they're bad. They are. And again, if it's a 90-minute show, you can try to pull off being upbeat, happy, even though you're just miserable with them. Right. And I just remember one of the producers comes up to me and she just said, this audience is lousy. And I was like, yeah, I know. I mean, I'm right here with them. I'm completely aware. And I just remember that was my last day, just because. And again, I've always said this about warm up. When an audience is great, they're just great. But when the audience is bad, oh, the warm up wasn't that good. That's always how it is in the industry. So, I think based on the show, there's certain things that you can do, but at the end of the day, at least for 90 minutes, you just got to plow through it.
Well, you've talked a lot about kind of your warm-up kind of gigs, but you also have had an incredible career within comedy. Do you have like some and I feel like any stand-up comic I talk to, they always have these random crazy stories. Do you have any like party trick stories of like, oh my God, this one time I was doing a show with so-and-so, I was doing a show, or, I know you talked about Conan, you talked about the Matt LeBlanc show, but any other kind of stories just throughout your stand-up career that were like highlights or things that kind of pop in your head that you're like, this is why I'm in this business?
I mean, listen, I will say this for all the ups and downs with stand-up, and I feel very lucky because not only do I get to perform at all the clubs in town, which is a comic's dream, that you're passed and you're respected and feel like family at all these clubs, because a lot of comics who live in LA don't work these clubs. They just, for some reason, they haven't been passed. They're not a fit for these clubs. I think because I'm a good host and these clubs need strong hosts, it's benefited me because that's why I get a lot of work in town, which is great. But I also feel very lucky because so many comic friends of mine have to go on the road. They have to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Omaha, Nebraska, and work a lousy comedy club for a weekend, not make much money. Or they do cruise ships. That's a big thing now. A lot of comics work cruise ships. Oh. The money is decent, but they're gone. They're gone for 3 out of 4 weeks a month. I have this great balance that I get to do all the clubs I want to do. And then I can do this great daytime gig. I'm home by 6:30. And it's a perfect balance. I can go out of town when I want to. I can pick up these corporate gigs. I can pick up weeks in Vegas if I want. So it's really just kind of a nice balance that I'm just so grateful for, because it's the perfect mix. I don't have to travel. As I get older, I don't want to travel anymore. I love being at home. But I just think for stand-up, it's such a different vibe, because literally I've had people that have come to see me do Jennifer, and then they come see me do stand-up, and they're like, oh my gosh, you could never do that at the Jennifer Hudson show. It's pretty dirty. And I was like, yeah, of course not. There's no possible way. But you just adjust it, because I do a lot of crowd work, but it's and it's also funny too. I have also learned this. It's better here. This is weird. Before I started working at Conan, they had a guy that did warm up. His name was Jimmy Pardo. Jimmy would always be required to go backstage and tell Conan if they were good or bad. That was his job. They never had me do that. I don't know why. But now if Jimmy goes back there and he says they're good, now Conan comes out and they're not good, or vice versa. Jimmy says they're not a great crowd. Now Conan's like, well, why aren't they great? Now Conan's in his head that they're not good when he goes out there. So I think the best way, just with anything, it's the whole denial thing. It's just like, I thought they were fantastic. I mean, there was a warm-up guy who did sitcoms, and when the crowd was lousy, he would spend 30 minutes after the show going around to producers telling them why they were so bad. It's raining out. It's Tuesday. What's a church group? Like, instead of just leaving, now you're convincing them why they were bad. I mean, the problem with sitcoms, you're only doing 20-something episodes a season. So if they're not good, right?
Yeah.
For a full week, that cast and crew has to think about how bad they were the day before. They have a full week to process it. At least with game shows or at least with talk shows, you're right back in it the next day. There's no thinking about them not being good. It's over. There's a new audience in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. But you never want to admit they weren't great. You thought they were awesome, right? They were so good.
Well, and it's like, I know too, like, because I used to be the main caster of the audience, like I could walk outside and get my first look at the audience and know, just say the same as you. Like, it's like, I could text Brenna, it's going to be a rough one today or whatever. Yeah. Like, you just know, you get the read of people, you go, but then you still got to put on a show. You still got to make the energy come alive in that room so that the people on stage feed off of it. So if somebody wants to be an audience warm-up person or is thinking, you know, they might already work in improv or work in stand-up, what's the best way to kind of get into that line of work?
It's hard now because years ago there was so much taping. I mean, there were so many shows. You could go to those audience ticketing websites, On Camera Audiences, One Iota. There used to be a company called Audiences Unlimited that just handled sitcoms. I mean, because the market and the town has changed so much, there's just not as much opportunity. I mean, I'd say there's probably 6 people that do warm up in LA. 6 of us. We all know each other. So I think it's harder for new people. I will say, I think what people should do is be good at stand-up, although it's not required because there's a lot of warm-ups that aren't comics. A lot are. But I just think you gotta network around and find friends or colleagues that are starting a show. Because for me, how I got into a sitcom, which was so hard to at the time, my buddy Steve Byrne, he was starting his own sitcom, and I got lucky because he asked for me specifically to do warm-up on his show, even though I'd never done a sitcom. So that was kind of my jump in. I get to meet Ken Jeong. Ken then asked me to do warm-up on his sitcom, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. But it's all just kind of like networking and meeting the right people. But it's not easy right now just because there's just not a lot of work.
Yeah.
So one of your career experiences I do want to hear about, and that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but you performed on the USO tour, right?
Yeah. So that
was
like? Unbelievable. I mean, maybe a career highlight. I mean, we would go, I got to do it with a bunch of comic buddies. Went to Kuwait. I went to South Korea. I mean, it's just, just to experience it. I mean, and I will tell you, there were shows with maybe 10 soldiers, some shows, because something happened earlier in the day at that base, maybe something bad, or for whatever reason, there was something going on, and there were 10 people. And sometimes they would say, we don't want to do a show. They're not really ready for a show. And we'd still do it. And it was the most fulfilling thing, just getting their minds off of reality for an hour. It was just unbelievable. I mean, just getting to do that. And I wish I would have done more of them. It's not happening as much now, but a couple friends of mine just went to Poland. They did it for the military in Poland. Like, there's so much going on. The problem is, if you get asked to do them, like let's say they're in October or whatever, I would have to miss Jennifer Hudson for 2 weeks. And that's a hard thing to do. It's just a hard thing to do because I don't want to be gone for that. I just can't be.
Well, when there's only 6 of you in town, it's
Yeah, that's true.
you don't want to be giving up those gigs. And also, like, who would cover you if there is only 6 of you?
Well,
Yeah.
listen, they always say never recommend somebody that's better than you. And listen, that's kind of how the Conan thing went down. I mean, Conan, the guy that was doing it, brought me in because he had to go film something or he was doing something on camera for another show and brought me in, and they liked the energy better. And that was it. I mean, it was so weird. And that was at a time where Conan was kind of not at the Tonight Show anymore. He was on TBS. It was, his 6 years in already. So the crowds weren't as pumped up as they once were, just a different vibe. And the truth is, there are some, it's very weird. Some shows you're not a fit for. I mean, some shows there's somebody else that's better, that fits that realm better. That's why I never thought that the Jennifer show would be a fit, because I thought I'm more of a kind of a late night person. My act's a little too dirty. I don't think I fit this as kind of a middle-aged white guy going into this show. And somehow it clicked. I don't know. And I'm grateful for it, but it was very cool.
I do remember your first day. And I remember because we had a couple of different warm-up people, like,
Yep.
they were all testing out. And then your first day, everyone was like, oh. Like, you used the word click, but it's a weird thing. Every audience, I think, is so unique no matter the show. And to have the right warm-up person is going to just set even a bad audience off for success, so that you get through that long day, you get through those interviews. And even Jennifer can feed off of that in such a positive way.
So, I mean, so many times you go into work and like you're not feeling good or something is going on. Or I remember one time I was walking off from the audience down to the floor and I twisted my ankle. Like I stepped the wrong way and I was in so much pain. I was just like, what the? But you just gotta. One time I remember I was at Carson Daly and I was running from one point to the other and I tripped over an apple box that I didn't see on the floor. And everybody sees it. And you're just like, you got to jump up, pretend that this is part of everything, and you can't let it rattle you. It's even years and years ago when I think I was at Carson Daly. This is when my dad was sick before he passed. And, I'd call my mom and she would tell me how bad he was. And, he didn't have long to live. And you'd be like, okay, I'll call you later. Hey, everybody who wants a t-shirt. It's like, so this weird, like, you can't let them see you be in a bad mood. It's you no matter what's going on with stand up, and you have to create that energy. They came here to escape. So you got to bring it. I don't want to go to a concert and hear the artist talking about politics or whatever that is. I mean, like a musical art, like I came here for the show. I came here to escape everything.
And you do that so well. You kind of make everybody feel you're kind of like the fun uncle. Like that's kind of like the
was
vibe.
Your creepy uncle.
No, I said fun uncle.
I get that.
I said you're not drunk uncle. You're the fun uncle. We all have seen the drunk uncle on SNL. But did you always want to go into comedy? Like what drew you to want to kind of make people laugh and make people happy in the way that you do?
Yeah, I mean, from the time I was in school, like, it was so weird because my mom and I still talk about this to this day. I was really good academically, but was such a pain in the butt with the teachers that I would get suspended all the time for just screwing around. So when your report card came out, you would get a grade and then you get a citizenship number. So you get like 1 if you were like good, 2 if you're whatever. So 1 through 5, 1 being a good student, 5 being awful. And I would get like A's and B's and 5s. And my parents couldn't really be upset because I was still doing well, even though I was just acting out all the time. It was unbelievable. And I would get suspended. I'd be the only one home. My mom always kind of sheltered me and never told my dad that I was suspended or home from school for screwing around. Yet nobody else was in the neighborhood home. It's like, where is everybody? But my dad never said anything. I don't know. Maybe he knew and was just playing silly. But, that was kind of from high school forward. I just was like, oh, this is great. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I started doing stand-up and just fell in love with it. I was just like, I really enjoy it. But then making that move to LA is a lot harder because San Francisco is such a small town and you can work all the clubs. But then you move down here and you're like, oh, wow, this is a big change. I mean, this is insane. And so I started to get into the improvs which was just a great transition of how to get work at the clubs and then stuff. But listen, I mean, what the crazy thing is, it took me years. I mean, I just last couple of years started working in the Laugh Factory, and this is like 20 something years in. Isn't that insane?
That's insane. But you've worked at the biggest names in LA, the biggest clubs. Tell us about some of your favorite venues and what it felt like to kind of be on those stages for the first time.
I just got to do the Forum in LA with Jimmy O Yang. So that was 10,000 people, maybe the biggest audience I've ever been in front of. I mean, it's insane. Like, to just be in that arena where basketball was played, and where, like, years earlier I saw REO Speedwagon perform, and I remember being on that stage looking in the direction of where I was sitting. I mean, that was pretty amazing. Or doing Carnegie Hall in New York. Like, just those little moments, you're just like, this is pretty badass. This is pretty cool. Yeah, just, being able to do these things. It's working in Vegas and seeing your name on a marquee. Like, that still never gets old. It's just great. Those little things. I mean, listen, going onto the Warner Brothers lot every day that never gets old. It never gets old knowing that people are waiting in line while I'm taking a shower, going into work, and they're there to see the show. And they flew in, you never, and I think that's what sometimes you have to put into perspective. Like, they've given up their day and their week, and they've made arrangements around this to be here. And it's a very cool thing.
Yeah. I agree with you. The Warner Brothers thing is just the days I would actually have the time to wander over to the grill to get food, or it's just, you just pinch yourself. And now when there's shows like the studio where they're using our lot and basically our workspace as their set, it's so cool. And well, I mean, look at the carts, the Warner Brothers tour that go around, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I get to walk freely on this lot without security. I mean, it's very cool. I mean, just to be part of that, it's a very cool kind of moment. It's a very cool thing that just you just don't forget. It's surreal. It's like, this is a very good. And listen, as a comic, I think you always want more. You're like, oh, why can't I have my own TV show? Why can't I this? Why can't I that? But I think when I look at all the comics that live here in LA, and so many of the comics that I started with in San Francisco who aren't even doing it anymore, they're done. I mean, I knew so many great comics when I started that you're like, I think that person would be famous. So a buddy of mine that, I've been friends with for 25 years, we started together in San Francisco, and he now is a loan processor, and he lives in Riverside and all this other stuff. And I was just like, and he was very funny. And so you're like, it's very cool, to get a call from like Kevin Nealon and say, can you open for my special next weekend? And like, those are kind of cool moments. For sure.
So I know something that you are really passionate about that I want to hear your thoughts on is dogs and fostering them, taking care of them. Apparently you once housed 12 dogs at once.
More.
All right. What is the story there?
So what happened was, years and years ago, I had one dog, and I lived in Santa Monica, lived in a small apartment. And then my wife at the time wanted a dachshund. So we got a dachshund. Now that brought us up to 2 dogs. The dachshund's dad, it was the dad, because we had a dog. The dachshund's dad was being surrendered, and we ended up getting the dad and the son. So we had now 3 dogs, a lab, and then 2 dachshunds. So this is how it all started. I'll never forget this. Somebody said, can somebody go down to the Orange County shelter, pull this dog, and bring it back up to LA because we have a foster for the dog, or something like that, right? I get down to the shelter. The dog is gone. He's been adopted already. And I remember saying, I am not leaving this shelter empty-handed. I don't know why I thought that. I'm just not. I see this dog with a cone on its head. He's all frazzled, a poodle or whatever. I take the dog. So obviously the foster who was going to take that original dog didn't want this dog. So now we're stuck with this dog. And I'll never forget, I just fell in love with it. We were a small apartment, 4 dogs. So eventually, the one dog that I pulled from the Orange County shelter gets adopted. I found somebody for it, but now we still have our 3. So I say to my wife, Michelle at the time, I said, we need to move. I want a backyard. So we moved from Santa Monica to Encino. We moved to a place that has a great backyard. It's huge. The house itself is a dump. It's just not a great house, falling apart. But I see the backyard, and I just see Disneyland for dogs, right? So this was right before the pandemic. So all of a sudden I start getting into this groove. I start fostering dogs that I see online that are about to be put down. I start grabbing these dogs. All of a sudden we go from 3 to 5 to 7. I mean, it is a disaster. I mean, and none of our neighbors know that we have this many. It's crazy. None of them do. Shockingly, they all get along. We have big dogs, small dogs, dogs that need insulin, dogs that are blind. It's anything and everything. It's a hodgepodge of everything. So there would be moments where in December, people who were going out of town for Christmas would say, could you watch our dogs? So there was a time, I would say, maybe we had 20 at the time. Eventually, and I'm like, I got to figure something out. This is just not sustainable anymore. It wasn't working. I loved every one of the dogs. I loved them. Seeing them all at night, sleeping on the bed, the couch, we had spots for everybody. They were all fantastic. The problem is when you're by yourself, there's nobody there to watch the dog. So now you have to bring somebody in, pay them. Nobody wants to watch 15 dogs. It's impossible. So before I moved from Encino to Studio City, I found homes for every single one of those dogs, except 3 of them that were my oldest that I ended up keeping. And they've all since passed. But I made it a point now that I will always foster a dog. So I've seen, there was a dog that I got pulled from the shelter that was on the chopping block. We pulled him, fostered him. He's been adopted.
Yay.
And then the minute he got adopted, we pulled another one. I pulled another one and now have this one.
All right. Do a sales pitch for this dog right now. What is this dog? Why should people be interested in adopting him or her?
Loki was this dog, this black lab pit bull mix. And he was in the shelter for 6 months, terrified. He'd been extended a bunch of times. We finally got him out. He's great. He's just an unbelievable dog, full of energy. Probably needs a yard, but he's just good as gold. And he just was so scared in the shelter, which most dogs are. And that's why they have this bite aggression or they show teeth because they don't want to be there. So all these dogs are being put down and it's ridiculous because the minute they get out, you see a different side of them. It's unbelievable. And it pains me so much because I try now, even though I'm just fostering one, but I try now, especially now because we're in the summer, to do transport. So let's say a dog is getting out, I'll bring the dog from the shelter to its new home or just something. I've had so many dogs just go to the bathroom in the backseat of my car. It's unbelievable. But to see, like, I have so many videos of these dogs when they get out of the shelter. I always stop at McDonald's and get hamburgers for them. And I have so many of these videos of feeding them hamburgers. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know where my soft spot went, where it turned to going from, hey, let's just have 1 to 15 to 20. But it's insane. And it was funny. I'll never forget this. When I had 15 dogs at my house one time, our neighbors were great. We had pretty high fences. Nobody could really know what was going on with our dogs. I'll never forget one day my landlord said, hey, I need to come over to check something. And I'm like, holy shit, I can't have 15 dogs running around this house. So I called up my neighbor and I said, you need to do me a solid. Please don't ask anything. Can I bring over a couple of my dogs? She's like, of course. I bring over all the big dogs, right? All the big ones. And I keep like the blind dog and like whatever. And I remember that our dogs were next door and they're barking and barking because they know they can hear me, right?
Yeah.
I remember saying to my landlord, I was like, the neighbor next door has so many dogs. They're so loud. And we just started laughing because I was just like, I'm so thankful just to have 3. She had found out later that I had all those dogs because the gardeners found out and they told her. But I think it was at a time when it was during COVID.
Yeah.
It was hard to evict people. So it was just insane. But it was just having all those dogs and now knowing where they all are. I mean, some are in Oregon. I have one of the dogs that lives in Burt, like just knowing where they all are. And in fact, a buddy of mine adopted one of my dogs and he lives in Oregon. And I just got to see Tucker again for the first time in 2 years. And that was great. Cause I don't know if he remembered me or maybe he did or didn't, but you're just like, wow, this is insane. It's so cute.
Well,
The-
what adoption agencies do you work with in the Los Angeles area? And like if other people want to be able to help in situations like if they see, especially when you mentioned summer's coming up, a lot of dogs do need places. A lot of people throw their dogs in shelters because they're going on vacation and
yeah,
whatnot. So tell us a little bit about how people could get involved in
I
this.
think
Yeah.
I think the best thing people can do, and this drives me up a wall when I see a dog posted on Facebook that needs help, right? And people will write, if I didn't live in Cleveland, I would take that dog. If I didn't live in Boise, or there's 8 shelters by your house. I mean, so I don't understand why. The best thing people can do is, because these shelters are so short-staffed and they're going through these budget crisis, I think people can go to the shelter, see how they can volunteer, go to different places, see if you can walk a dog, see if you can donate food, whatever it is. There's little things. It doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to cost money. If you can get a lot of these dogs that are in the shelter don't even get to get out. They're not being walked. So if people could do that, it's absolutely huge. That's what people can do. That's effortless that they wanted to. Because that's how I kind of started, was just, walking them and getting into the groove that way.
If you don't know if you're ready to get a dog, that fostering or volunteering is a great way for you to kind of see if you're ready for that step and ready for that responsibility.
I wish more people, it's funny. There's this dog that's been at the Burbank Animal Shelter for like 2 years now. It's insane. And we featured her on the news 6 months ago, didn't get anywhere. We're bringing her back in studio Sunday to try to get more eyes on her. But like, there's certain dogs when I see on Facebook, not that they all, I fall in love with all of them, but like certain dogs, like the dog I had before this one, Rocky, or Loki, who we have now, is it's something about their video or their post or something like that catches your eye very quickly. And you're like, okay, I for whatever reason, you always think somebody else is going to jump in. I think that's the problem with people, is that you think, oh, I'll ignore it. Somebody else is bound to rescue that dog or save the dog, adopt the dog. And it really doesn't happen. I just see too much of it where so many dogs don't make it out for whatever reason. And the shelters are overcrowded. There's not enough staff. There's just too many dogs being bred. It's insane. I wish more people would step up, because I see this all the time. Maybe you guys see it too. People will say to me, if you need something or need somebody to help with a dog, reach out to me. And then I do, and there's always an excuse, blah, 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 right? But certain people have come through when I've needed them, and it's been great. So yeah, I mean, you guys have fostered all the time too. And it's hard. It's hard to say goodbye to them too. It's because when I had Rocky, we brought him to the new home, and I was like, this is the saddest thing ever. And then he bolted right into their house, never came back out again. I was like, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, he could care less that he's gone. He's now safe. It doesn't matter. So to me, that's what makes me happy, is just seeing the stories of them flourishing and running on the beach or all that stuff. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, you're like a little matchmaker.
This whole thing has been incredibly warm and cozy, but one thing that we always do when we have guests is ask them to share what we call hot cocoa, which is something people have encountered that is just kind of made them feel a little good in life, little positive note. Could be news you saw, something you experienced. So it would be very curious if you have any hot cocoa that you would be willing to share.
Well, it's definitely a dog story, because I
Right.
remember I had these 2 dogs, Dusty and Jazzy, who I fell in love with. They were a bonded pair. I think maybe brother. No, I don't know what they were, but I had them. And because they didn't get along with other dogs, I had to keep them in a separate room of the house when I lived in Encino, right? We only had 2 bedrooms. So it wasn't like I had a 9-bedroom and one of the bedrooms was occupied. So they had to be in a separate room. And whenever I would need to let them out, I'd have to shift all the other dogs into the other bedroom, bring them out, and then reverse it back when we would bring them in. It was a disaster, but they couldn't mingle with the other dogs. So one day, I know this guy who runs a rescue in Oregon. He said, I'm going to take them. So I said, okay. So I have to go, I load them in the car. We go to Ontario, where they're at a center where this bus drives from LA to Oregon and is going to drop them off at the new rescue where my buddy owns. Leaving them behind was the hardest thing I'd ever done, because I love those dogs. And I had this vision of them driving up the 5 and me chasing after them in my car, like this, love story, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get up to Oregon. I said, whatever you do, George, please do not separate them. They have to be together. They're a bonded pair. He said, okay, no problem. Eventually, they're not getting adopted. They're just, some people want one, not the other, whatever. I said, okay, we got to do what we got to do. So then they get adopted separately. And I still keep in touch with the people who have Dusty, the people who have Jazzy, and they're just leading this amazing life. They're in Oregon. They're both on huge plots of land, running all day with cattle. And like, they're again, I think I wanted them to be together. That was my dream and hope.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're flourishing. It's so incredible that's to see that and know that was part of. I always say this whenever I have to say goodbye to them. I always give them a kiss on the head, and I always say, thank you for letting me be part of your journey. And I always do that, and it just makes me so happy to see where they end up.
Gary, that was maybe the first time we've had a guest that actually made me teary-eyed with their hot cocoa, so thank you for that.
Yes.
There's never going to be a time in my life where I would not have a dog at my house. Never, ever, ever. It's impossible.
I feel the same way.
Yeah,
I love it.
Absolutely.
So if people are enjoying this as much as we are and want to learn more about what you've got coming up, where can they find that out?
My website, it just has all the dates on it. And then Instagram, like Canon Comedy 2025. But yeah, this summer I'll be out on the road. I'll be doing Las Vegas, the Comedy Cellar at the Rio, the week of Memorial Day. I'm doing the Tempe Improv, Stand Up Live in Phoenix, just kind of on the road, doing a bunch of stuff, trying to keep busy.
I love it. And hopefully come September, we'll see you back at the Jennifer Hudson show.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. This was amazing, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so much, Gary.
That was our interview with Gary Cannon, and that was episode 22 of Channeling Hallmark. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And while you're at it, maybe leave us a rating, leave a review, comment, depending on what platform you're listening on. And yeah, what else should people do, Keetin?
You guys should follow us across all social media platforms at Channeling Hallmark. We are on Blue Sky, YouTube, Instagram, and each of our individual Instagrams. I'm at Keetin Markey. You're at DB Cashbaugh. And Dylan does have a letterbox, which are you even going to review this movie on your letterbox?
I have to have a rating. It's not going to be a good rating.
It's
not going to be a good rating, everyone. But maybe I can, if anybody else has, this is a call to action, everyone. I want to know if anyone else listening has watched the movie Funny People, and if so, please tell us what you thought of it. I'm so curious if our experience was just unique to us or if other people feel that as well. So please reach out and let us know what you thought. We want to hear from you. But thanks so much for listening. And until our next episode, don't forget to channel Hallmark in your life.
Stay cozy, y'all. Bye-bye.
Channeling Hallmark is an independently produced podcast and is neither sponsored nor sanctioned by Hallmark or any other entity. Thank you for listening.